Are you a lifelong fan of General Hospital?
Are you a new fan who wants to know more about the history of the show?
Do you enjoy talking about the show with others?
Do you find yourself yelling at the TV?
Is your self-care an hour a day in Port Charles?
If so, we invite you to join hosts
Amanda Kimmel
and Shannon Coach at the place where all the hidden conversations take place and secrets are revealed.
Meet us at Pier 54,
a General Hospital fan podcast. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the Port Charles 411. Today we are on part 3 of the quote, quick Mother's Day 411 that Amanda had chosen that I made longer.
No surprise there.
Well, but it's Lila, and we love Lila, and we say this every week.
I know. I appreciate all of your detail. I just think it's funny because that week you were like, what's something short and sweet? And I was like, here is a short and sweet write-up about Lila, and it's Mother's Day, and this is perfect. And you were like, yes, it is, but I can't not deep dive into this. So
she deserves this. And I just think, I mean, I said it, the first week? It was the second week. It was last week that I shared that it had been 20 years since her passing the day before our first episode. So, I mean, this is just what we're meant to be talking about right now. So this is
exactly.
Okay. So we get started. Today we're only doing 1990 and 91, which I was surprised had enough to, it's not going to be like a super long one, but it's enough. So in 1990, we basically left off at the end of 89 where she was talking to Ghost Edward a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we pick up again in early 1990. She is continuing to talk to Ghost Edward, and it was actually still David Lewis's voice, but the quote character had been killed off of the show, but they still used his voice. So I hope that they had him come in and record lines, and he still got paid.
Right.
But then it was in February. So this is kind of the same thing where there's some side stories that she's like heavily involved in, that there is through her, there is an impactful thing that happens. So I feel like it made sense to address. In February of 1990, Lila suggests that Decker be hired as a mechanic for the estate, but he turns her down. However, and we're using Curly Q Girl again, and a little bit of General Hospital fandom. So in February of 1990, Lila suggests Decker be hired as a mechanic for the estate, but he turns her down. However, he does agree to look at one of the old sports cars at the Q's. Lila tells the Q's about hiring Decker to fix an old Ferrari that she wants to give Ned. And I'm assuming that means it was one of Edward's old cars that she's having fixed up to give to Ned. Mm-hmm. Although I don't see Ghost Edward telling her to do that.
No.
And I feel like, given what we've at least heard so far, she didn't make decisions about Edward's things without hearing from Edward.
Right.
But then on February 21st, Lila is admitted to General Hospital after taking a fall at the mansion. The mansion was undergoing renovations at the time. Tracy blames Monica for the fall. Harrison thinks that Lila may need surgery. The Quartermaines rally around her hospital bed, and even Ghost Edward pays her a visit. Steve tells Lila the truth about her condition, and she has to decide whether to have surgery or be in a wheelchair. Tracy and Scott have a heart-to-heart about Lila. Lila's having a hard time deciding about having surgery. Monica is upset because Harrison has scheduled the surgery for Lila, even though she hasn't made up her time, which, as you and I both know, recently, right now, I'm in 100% support of Harrison because you need to get on that wait list.
Yes, exactly.
Because you never know how long it's going to take. It could take 2 months. So then Harrison explains to Alan and Monica about Lila and the surgery list. So I'm assuming that means the wait list.
Yes.
On February 27th, Lila gets a motorized wheelchair as she has decided against surgery. This is when Lila gets her wheelchair. And we knew that Anna Lee needed a wheelchair. And it turns out that actually came about so she was cast on General Hospital the late 70s, so 78, 79.
Okay.
According to Variety.com, she was paralyzed from the waist down in a car accident just 1 year after she began playing Lila Quartermaine on ABC's General Hospital. Lee acted in the wheelchair for more than 2 decades until she left the soap. And it says last year. So this was written right after she passed, because there was also the big controversy where they took her off contract in 2003.
Right.
So she had been paralyzed most of the time that we saw Lila. But so she just wasn't using a wheelchair. But like there were so many times that, we see pictures of her standing.
Right.
And we weren't really watching then. And I really haven't gone back to notice, did she just not move? Did they just have her standing and minimal movement? Because I don't think
maybe
her, like walking around.
I mean, that would make sense. Kind of like what they do with Monica whenever we get her for like that last scene. She was sitting at the desk and not doing anything.
Yeah, but I think that's amazing that she was able to be paralyzed from the waist down for almost a decade.
That's crazy.
Before the actress needed to rely on using a wheelchair. And I love the fact that they wrote that into her story, because I actually wonder if that has to do with her personal story. I wonder, was she given the option of surgery or a wheelchair? And is that what she made?
Right.
But I could not find that information. So if you happen to know this, will you please write in and let us know? And then April of 1990, Monica tells Lila that she can stay in the mansion, but Tracy's out. So this was, I think we've talked about it the past couple of weeks. This is when Monica and Alan were on the outs, and he was like having his fling with Lucy and everything.
Right.
And then August 6th, Ghost Edward pays Lila a visit. And December 18th, it says Lila is getting the mansion for Christmas. And I put a question mark, because what the heck does that mean? Because Monica did not give Lila the mansion.
Maybe she means that remember how they have all those arguments about who is going to decorate what for Christmas time? Maybe it means that she like got the magic ticket, that it's her decoration style this year.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, all right, now on to 1991. In January, Lucy tells Lila she will do nothing to jeopardize the newest Q heir. Alan comes in and says the trust fund papers are ready and he needs Lila to sign them later. Lila says she must talk to Alan in private today. Lila tells Tracy she didn't want to tell Lucy about the stock shares she is transferring to Tracy. Tracy tries to get Lila to hold off signing the trust fund papers. Lucy is trying to hurry her up, and Lila signs them. January 22nd, Lila calls a family meeting. She tells Alan that Tracy somehow was left with no ELQ shares, and that is not what Edward would have wanted. She rectified the situation and gave Tracy 30% just like Alan, so they are equal. Tracy looks like the cat who swallowed the canary. Alan is really angry. He tells Tracy to shut up. They fight, and Lila silences them and says her mind is made up. Lila signs the papers to give the stocks to Tracy. And then January 24th, Tracy and Lila show up to visit Lucy. Lila tells Tracy that it is not the right time to be talking about trust funds. Lila tells Lucy she is sending her on a 6-week cruise to recover and give her and Alan some space. They leave. And then on the 29th, Lila is wheeled in as Lucy is wheeled out of the hospital. They collide. Lila tells the doctor she will make sure Lucy has nothing but smooth sailing ahead of her. Lila tells Lucy she made all the arrangements for Lucy to be gone for 6 weeks. She tells her not to Mother Quartermaine again. Lila tells her whatever she has done for Alan, not for her.
And this
Alan
is when Lucy was, this is when Lucy had the miscarriage, but
yes,
she was actually pregnant, because there was also another time, and I think it's coming up, that she was faking the pregnancy. Right? So she had an actual miscarriage with Alan, but then...
Right.
Yeah.
Alan and Monica speak to Lila at the hospital. They tell Lila that Alan is up on assault charges. Lila says it might be a mistake as she paid Lucy to go on vacation for 6 weeks. On the 31st, Monica tells Lila that the family is spending way too much and it is critical they cut back. Lila says Edward would call a family meeting and read everyone the riot act. Monica takes her advice and says she will call a meeting. Monica comes into the gatehouse. She tells the Qs that there is no free lunch anymore. They all have to cut back. Tracy snarks back. They should have a telethon. Okay. And we talk about telethons to raise funds for charities all the time. I don't think we mean just for one family, Tracy, but okay.
Right, exactly. Like you losing your millions.
Right. Can someone have a telethon for me? Because I'm broke. Ashton wants to know why
isn't that what GoFundMe is now, basically, though?
yeah, basically, I don't feel like I have enough friends, no matter what story. Like, there are legitimate GoFundMe's that I absolutely feel like people should donate if they can. But then I see other ones that are just seem like an everyday life sob story. Like, I mismanaged my money, help, I'm broke. And I think I do not have enough friends that would feel bad for me and send me money. They would be like, yeah, everyone does that. Like, figure it out.
Great.
So
The
the
biggest
fact that
story that we
Tracy,
can take away from GoFundMe, though, is get life insurance. Mm,
yes, yes,
looking at you.
yes, I know you are. But
Out
it's
of
funny
love.
that,
Out of love,
I
I
know,
absolutely am.
I know. So I think it's funny that Tracy's like, yeah, a telephone for me. Ashton wants to know why they should live like regular people when they have money. Monica says she is moving back in. Tracy and Ashton have to move back to the gatehouse. They freak out. Ned freaks out. Lila thinks it's a great idea. Monica tells them they all have to contribute a certain amount a month, and Monica tells Tracy she moved her things to the gatehouse. And then in February, the SS Tracy sank. Ned says it's a total loss. Lila tells them not. Lila tells them,
Oh, two, stop. Sorry.
okay, I was going to say, what? Lila tells them to stop being silly and that ELQ has a hefty insurance policy on all of its ships and that Edward always made sure of that. Ned had a worried look on his face because he dropped the policies to save money. There's another lesson. When you're cutting back spending, do not cancel insurance policies.
Nope.
Lila tells Tracy and Larry to stop fighting. Tracy asks her what Edward would do. Lila says she will ask him when she goes back to the main house, meaning that she's going to talk to Edward's ghost. And then March 8th through the 14th, Lila calls an ELQ meeting. She tells Ned that he isn't getting anywhere with the ELQ Tracy mess, and she wants to call in an outside financial consultant to help the family figure out their situation. Alan and Monica agree. Tracy is furious and tells them Ned can handle it. Monica insults Ned, and then Tracy and Ned walk out. Ned and Tracy are summoned to a meeting by Alan, Monica, and Lila. They basically tell Ned he is a liar and that he refused to even consider Bill Eckerd's plan. They want someone from the outside to come in and run things. Lila tells him he doesn't know what he is doing and that he is no longer running the company, and a fight breaks out. Alan and Monica are in the den talking about how broke ELQ is and how they are so glad to have day jobs. Lila comes in and tells them that Edward used to say, if you're not an expert, get an expert. She goes to make a phone call and tells Alan and Monica to write an apology letter to the Port Authority.
I guess that's
Lila
who would
comes,
have jurisdiction over the fact that the boat sank. I
I
think that
guess
that's
so.
what she's getting at.
Right. I guess that makes sense. Lila comes in with Sean Donnelly, and Sean tells them that he has a solution. ELQ should get a loan to raise the ship. Alan tells him he knows the smell of a rat and that Sean will be waiting to take over when ELQ can't make payments. Monica asks Alan to put his anger aside and listen. Sean says he will find someone willing to back ELQ. Lucy shows up at the mansion. She refuses to leave until she sees Lila. Lila enters and Lucy wants to talk with her alone. Lucy thanks Lila for the cruise and that she thinks she and Alan are meant to be together. Lila tells her to go ask Scotty for advice. March 20th, Paul was currently running the company and had ordered a stay of execution for the salvaging of the ship. Lila leads an ELQ vote, and Paul's deal passes unanimously. Lila congratulates him and tells him he reminds her of Edward. Ugh, no. The next day, Paul is having a meeting with the Qs. He tells them they have to liquidate some assets and cut back far and deep. The Qs are not happy, especially Tracy. Lila thinks like the Lila
Oh, thanks. Things
thinks
like this.
like this have never happened when Edward was alive. Lila refuses to sell the undeveloped land on the waterfront as it was the first property Edward bought. Aw. She is
Yeah.
planning on making a memorial park on that land. She tells the rest of the Qs to back her up on this. They all agree. Paul says selling the plant is a start. And
And
then,
this is where, like, this is in between like the Asian quarter was kind of just ending and the cartel was just starting, but it's almost like this was the bridge over because this is how Paul wound up bringing Harlan Barrett. His salvage company was the one that was supposed to be raising the SS Tracy. But I didn't realize how much little things Lila is kind of responsible for, like bringing Sean in to be, even when we discussed Sean. And,
right.
Even when we discussed Sean, when we discussed ELQ, like, I don't think I realized that it was Lila's the one who called Sean because that's what Edward would do. Edward would call somebody who was an expert. And so I just thought like little things like that definitely needed to be,
yes,
it impacted the whole family, but it's also Lila being sweet and smart and sometimes naive.
Right. Trying to be respectful of all of Edward's wishes. It was very sweet.
Exactly. And then in April, Ned, Tracy, and Lila meet with Paul, and this is Paul Hornsby. Paul tells them that ELQ is in dire financial crisis and that they need to sell the cannery. They need to talk to Alan and Monica first. Paul says that they will vote on it at the board meeting the next day. The Qs have their board meeting and decide not to sell the cannery to Harlan. Ned and Tracy side with Paul, but Alan, Monica, and Lila don't agree. The Quartermaines are back to discussing the stock sale. Alan says that he would rather sell Tracy than his stock, and a fight breaks out, and Paul leaves. Lila assures him that she won't let the family leave the room until they make a decision. And the Quartermaines continue to argue, and they get a phone call that the cannery is on fire. Suspicious. The Qs all return home after being out all night with the cannery fire. They tell Lila that it isn't all lost, but a big part is ruined. The Qs then find out that Ned let that insurance policy go as well. They are furious until Paul walks in and announces that when he was instated as the head of ELQ, that he reinstated that insurance policy and they are fully insured.
Woohoo!
So, of course, he is now the big hero. Monica and Lila thank him for all of his help, and they think that someone is out to get them. Monica tells Paul that she wants him to hire Sean Donnelly to investigate. And I believe this is when Monica and Sean were close.
No.
And in between basically April and May, so like that was kind of the middle of April, because then the next section that talks about Lila is the middle of May. In between then is when that earthquake happened. So there was just like a lot of random stuff going on with, it looked like just about everyone. Okay. So in the middle of May, Lila arrived at the hospital for a physical. Ned and Tracy are with her. She asks Monica if she has her regular doctor and feels that the whole thing is unnecessary. If you know Lila, like you're saying these lines in your head, yep. In her voice.
Yes.
Monica tells them that she will outlive them all. Paul walks in and says that Harlan Barrett wants to meet with them and make another offer on the cannery. Alan walks up and says he thought they weren't going to sell it. The Qs have their board meeting. Everyone agrees that Harlan's offer to buy the cannery. Everyone agrees to Harlan's offer to buy the cannery except for Lila. She is very upset over it. Paul says that they still need to make the stock go public. The Qs have their board meeting and vote about going public. Alan, Ned, and Lila refuse. Paul tells them that they will be filing Chapter 11 soon. Finally, Alan changes his vote, and they have the majority that they need to go public. So it doesn't say where Tracy voted. Then on May 20th, they're in the living room. May 20th through the 24th, the Quartermaines were signing over the papers for the cannery, and Lila was just very, very upset over it. Because, I mean, I feel like she's probably looking at that as that's one more thing of Edward's that's gone.
Right.
Then on the 28th, Tracy asks Lila if she will ask Edward about Harlan Barrett for her. She senses there is something not on the up and up with him. And I believe at this time is when Harlan was trying to get with Tracy prior to Paul, because didn't Harlan not succeed? And then that's why they put Paul on him.
Yep.
They put Paul after Tracy. So Lila agrees. She tells Tracy to leave the room. Edward tells her he is repelling, conniving, double-crossing, flim-flam artist. Tracy thanks Lila for asking and thanks Edward. Edward answers her back and she actually hears him. And then the next few weeks were just going on more and more about like the cannery, ELQ, the stock mess, how Ned messed up, blah, 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 blah.
Got it. And then in June, Monica and Lila are checking the mail. Monica gets a wedding invitation to Anna and Robert's wedding. Aww. Lila finds out the wedding is in a park. Lila suggests they get married at the Q Mansion. Lila is talking to Edward's pitcher, and he suggests the wedding should be held in the Quartermaine Shakespearean Garden. Monica shows up at the Port Charles Hotel. She tells Anna and Robert they want them to have the wedding at the Q's, and they accept. Could you imagine just somebody being like, you know what, don't get married out in that garden. Come to my mansion here. It's okay. You can just get married here.
Right. I would love it.
Thanks. July 11th, Lila wants to talk to Edward. She clears the room. Edward asks her if she bought the stock under an assumed name like he told her to. She asks Edward what he thinks of Tracy and Paul. He starts to answer, and then they get interrupted by Bill. Lila apologizes to Bill for Tracy's cracks about him being a baker's son. She introduces Bill to Edward's picture. The following week, Tracy notices a picture has fallen off the wall and runs to find Lila and find out what it means. Tracy asks Lila about the broken frame on the painting. Ned comes in and is laughing at her. Tracy begs Lila to talk to Edward for her. Lila agrees, but not until she has had her breakfast. Tracy has a fit and tells Ned to shut up because he is laughing at her. Tracy calls a family meeting. She tells them about the letter she found from Edward to RS. Lila asks them all to leave the room so she can ask Edward about it. He tells her it is for Robert Scorpio. Lila decides the only person to open that letter will be Robert, and she will not hold it until Robert she will hold it until Robert returns. And then July 17th through 22nd, Tracy sneaks into the den and picks the lock on the desk drawer to find the letter written to Robert Scorpio from Edward. Lila catches her and demands she give her the letter. Lila tells her that Robert will be arriving home today, and she sent Jennings to get him to bring him to the house. Robert shows up at the Q's. They give him the letter. He wants to take it with him. The family all protests except Lila. They are busy yelling at each other while Tracy sneaks out of the room and hounds Robert until he agrees for her to meet him at his office. And then July 30th through August 6th, Robert calls Lila and wants to come over to discuss some things with her. Robert tells Lila about Edward's murder. Lila is upset and wants to be alone. Lila tries to contact Edward's ghost, but he isn't there. She tells Alan and Tracy that it proves he was a hero. They have a scene where both Alan and Tracy and Lila talk about missing Edward. Alan urges her to let Robert handle it.
And in September, Lila talks to Alan and AJ. Alan wants to explain to him about his inheritance. Lila tells him that inheritance is like sex. You should learn about it from your parents. She tells him to talk to him about his responsibilities. Lila then talks to Edward's picture, saying she knows what she has to do now. The following day, Lila calls Ned and AJ and Jennings to a family meeting. Lila tells them she wants them to receive their inheritance from her early next year. There is a condition. They will have to carry out their lives without any scandal. So this is September. She's literally asking them to wait 3-4 months. Hold it, September 17th. She's asking them to wait 3.5 months before they have a scandal.
Yep.
Right. Oh, and I couldn't find what it meant when he said, when Edward said, did you buy the stocks like under an assumed name? I really wish I could have found more information about this ghost Edward and Lila's relationship, because I feel like there's so much that just didn't come up. I'm assuming that meant that he told her to buy ELQ stocks under an assumed name, but I could be totally off base. Beginning of October, it was just basically all about planning Tracy's wedding. Lila tells Edward's photo that Tracy is so unhappy that Edward wasn't going to be there for the wedding. He tells Lila that Alan has to stand in for him. He tells Lila that Alan should sing at the wedding. Then in November, Lila talks to Edward's photo about AJ and the predicament that he's in. He has broken the requirement of avoiding scandal. So she tells AJ that she is cutting off his inheritance. AJ begs for another chance, and Lila says no. And that has to do with that Nancy lady's murder that was at the factory, right? Okay. Yep. And that was all part of the cartel storyline. Right. November 20th, Anna goes to the hospital to meet with Alan, Monica, and Ned. She tells them that she is reinvestigating the crash of Edward. She thinks the man that wrote the letter might be responsible for the crash and that Edward might have been murdered. Monica and Alan discuss what Anna might find out. Ned arrives and he still hasn't any news, and they don't want Lila to find anything else. Like, they don't want her to know that Edward might have been murdered, not just like his plane went down.
Right.
This line makes me so mad because I didn't know that he brought her into this. November 26th, Faison says that it's going to be a sad day for Lila. She lost her husband and now she's going to lose her only daughter. How dare he?
Yep.
I was seriously so mad when I read that. I'm like, why are you bringing Lila into this? You could bring everybody else in. Leave Lila alone.
Did you yell at your husband? Hey, this is not right.
Right? Like, nope, you can no longer like him because he was happy that he was making Lila upset. That's not cool.
That's not cool. Everybody loves Lila.
No. Then December 3rd, Lila was talking to Edward's portrait, telling him how much she meets him here. Then Edward walked in. He thinks she has gone bonkers talking to his picture. Lila is shocked but happy, and they have a sweet kiss. On December 5th, Ned walks in and asks AJ why Lila summoned them into a meeting. Alan and Monica arrive. Tracy walks in with great news that Paul is coming home today. Oh yeah, that's who she was marrying.
Ugh.
And Lila comes in and says Edward is alive. They all think she is nuts. Lila fills in the Quartermaine family on what happened to Edward. They're all a bit skeptical. Then they ask if anyone has seen Edward, and Lila says that she has. They doubt her, and then Edward walks in. Tracy rushes to him, and they all celebrate. Edward says the one thing that kept him going was a good martini. Not Lila, a good martini.
Of course not.
Which, if I remember correctly, didn't Robert find him at a bar?
That sounds right, but I wouldn't swear to it.
Okay. I feel like that was it. Anyway, that Christmas, the Quartermaines were in their living room. Lila was telling the families how each ornament was special. Tracy says that they are all from Lila's trips around the world. I would love if they brought that back. Like if they brought that conversation in as they're decorating.
Yes. Oh, that would be so cute to explain to the grandkids that Lila got this one here, Lila got that one here. That would be so sweet.
Yeah. And then, so they all comment on how nice it is to have Edward back. Then still around Christmas time, Edward and Lila were having coffee talking about their wonderful Christmas. Lila says that they are decorating again for a new party. Edward tells her he has been gone for a long time, but the leopard never changes its spots. Tracy comes in and says, what spots? Lila says she will be happy to host an engagement party for Ned and Jenny. Tracy says, no way. And Edward tells Lila that she owes him $5, which he wound up having to give back. So I think he knew that Lila was going to wind up doing this party.
Mm-hmm.
And that Tracy was going to flip out. That's what I'm guessing.
Right.
So then on New Year's Eve, Edward tells Lila she has never looked lovelier. The Qs leave for their respective parties just as Paul returns home. He tells Edward he knows that he expedited his meeting with the EPA so that he would have to come home. Edward tells him he gives him too much credit, but that he hopes he has a special New Year's Eve with his wife, just like he's going to have with Lila.
They were seriously so cute.
I know, and I couldn't go past that. I know that this is another short one, but that was just like...
It was a good stopping point for New Year's and him talking about he loves Lila.
Yes. So we've done so many of these storylines, and I guess I just didn't pick up on, or we didn't capture that information of she was pretty involved in a lot of it. So.
Well, I mean, when Edward was gone, she had to step up.
Right, exactly. But she really, really did. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to next week to see what I guess the two of them get into together.
Yes, I love Lila.
All right. Well, yeah, join us on Monday as we recap this week's shows.
Have a good weekend.
And we'll meet you at the pier.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to go to pier54podcast.com to subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave us a review.
And you can also follow us on many social media channels. Just search for Pier 54 Podcast. Also, we are not perfect, so if there is something that we missed or messed up, just let us know by emailing us at pier54podcast@gmail.com.